Most people think they're training with intention, but they're not. They're showing up, working hard, getting a good pump, maybe even feeling stronger some days, but if you ask them exactly what they did last week and what they improved on, it gets a little unclear. And that's what makes the difference when it comes to getting stronger. It's not just effort and discipline, it's whether your training is actually guided or if you're just going through the motions. Tracking is what turns effort into progress. But the thing is, not all tracking methods are equally helpful. Some are simple and flexible, some are structured, and some are more modern with fitness apps. But each one comes with trade-offs that most people don't really think about. So I want to walk through the 5 main ways people track workouts in this video, what they're great at, where they fall short, and which method ends up working best if your goal is to train more intentionally and actually see consistent progress. Because at the end of the day, all of these fitness tracking methods can work. People have gotten strong using every single one of them. This isn't about saying one method is completely useless and another is perfect. It's more about understanding what each method gives you, what it costs you, and how that affects the way you train over time. The first way, and probably the most common starting point, is just using your Notes app or something like Google Docs. This was actually how I started tracking too. It's simple, it's already on your phone, and you can pretty much write whatever you want. You just type the exercise you did and the weight sets and reps. You can copy and paste workouts from previous days, tweak them a little, and you've got a working system. For a lot of people, that's more than enough to get going. And honestly, there's a lot to like about using a Notes app. It's flexible, it's accessible anywhere, and everything lives in one place, so you can scroll back through your history pretty easily. For me, when I started using my Notes app to track workouts, it was a little distracting to use between exercises. Since everything is manual, you're typing on a small screen every workout. It doesn't seem like a big deal at first, but over time, it can feel a bit tedious, especially when you're mid-workout and just trying to move through your lifts. When I used the Notes app, I felt like I was balancing between staying focused on my workout and keeping my notes updated. And sometimes that flow just isn't as smooth as it could be. For a lot of people though, using the Notes app is still a really solid option because it's simple, it gets the job done, and it's a great way to start being more intentional with your training. Then you've got Google Sheets or Excel, which is kind of like a more structured and rigid version of tracking with Google Docs or your Notes app. I've seen people build out full workout systems and programs in spreadsheets using sets, reps, weight, notes, and even progress tracking like using RPE. One of my friends actually uses this and tracks everything in detail. And it works really well for him because he likes having everything organized and laid out clearly. And that's really the main advantage here. You can be very precise by tracking every set, adding notes for each exercise, and really dialing in your training if you enjoy that level of detail by recording things like the RPE and using graphs. At the same time, though, using sheets can feel a bit more involved during the workout itself. You're navigating cells, scrolling around, entering numbers. It's not the most seamless experience when you're just trying to get a workout in. For me personally, sheets have always looked overkill. Not because it's bad, it's actually very effective, but because it adds a heavier layer of complexity to my training that I don't really want when I'm lifting. So again, Google Sheets or Excel are a solid option for tracking your workouts, especially if you like structure and detail. But it does come with the trade-off of being a bit more effort to use in real time, even more so than the Notes app. For a bit more old school workout tracking, you've got tracking workouts on a notebook. With a notebook, you're not dealing with a screen, you're not switching between apps, it's just you, your workout, and a pen and paper. A lot of experienced lifters like Dorian Yates and David Goggins have used this approach, and some still do, especially for being able to reflect and have notes about how their training feels. So if you're disciplined with tracking workouts in a journal, you can build a really strong understanding of your training over time. The downsides to using a journal for tracking workouts are more practical than anything. You have to remember to bring your journal with you for every single workout. You also end up rewriting a lot of the same workouts by hand, and looking back through your workout history takes a bit more effort compared to scrolling on your phone. So using a notebook to track workouts can be a bit inconvenient. In a way, using a notebook for tracking workouts relies more on your intuition. It's great if you already have a strong sense of how to adjust and reflect on your training, but using a notebook doesn't really give you much information beyond what you write yourself. For getting more insight into your training, you've got set-by-set tracking fitness apps like Hevy or Strong, which are currently the most popular apps for tracking workouts. These apps are designed specifically for tracking workouts, so they solve a lot of problems from notes or journals. So you can save routines, track history, use rest timers. It's all designed for lifting. And for a lot of people, this tracking method is a really good balance. It's more streamlined than notes, more convenient than a journal, and easier to use than a spreadsheet. But for most popular fitness apps, I felt that there are still some trade-offs in some areas that fall short of getting real insight into my training. You're still typing everything manually, sets, reps, and weight, which means there's still a bit of friction during the workout. Tracking workouts with these apps doesn't take as long as using a notes app or journal, but using these apps still slow you down noticeably during a workout. And depending on the app, some features like custom exercises, full history, or deeper tracking are locked behind a paywall. Sometimes you can actually be less flexible with tracking on these apps than using a journal or notes app that lets you write anything you want. So while these apps are definitely solid, especially if you get the paid version, in my opinion, they don't fully take advantage of what software could be doing to actually help your training beyond just recording it. When you look across all of these methods for tracking workouts, a pattern starts to show up. They're all good at capturing information. They let you write down what you did, and that alone already puts you ahead of most people in your training. But these tracking methods don't always make it easy to use that information. A lot of the workout tracking methods rely on typing or writing, which can be slightly distracting during a workout. And more importantly, they don't really help you reflect or adjust without some more extra effort. So even though you're tracking, your training can still feel somewhat unstructured. You have the data, but you're the one doing all the work to interpret it, to find patterns, to decide what to change. And that's where the gap is. Good tracking isn't just about recording sets and reps. It's about helping you train with intention. That means being able to quickly see if you're progressing, understand when something stalls, and having a clear idea of what to adjust next. All of the methods we talked about can technically do that, but some make it a lot easier and clearer than others. Ideally, your tracking should feel simple while you're working out and more insightful when you're looking back at it. It shouldn't interrupt your training, and it shouldn't require a lot of extra thinking just to understand what's going on. That's exactly the approach I took when building the fitness app Grit and Gain. The main idea was to keep tracking simple during the workout, but make reflection and insight much more powerful afterwards. Once you set up your exercises, you're not typing everything out each time. You're just tapping to log your sets. It sounds like a small difference, but it removes that constant back and forth between lifting and entering data so you can stay focused on your workouts. Where the app really starts to separate itself is in how it helps you understand your training. Instead of just showing numbers, you can see your strength trends over time with estimated 1 rep max graphs, which makes it much easier to tell if you're actually getting stronger or if you're starting to plateau. You can look at your weekly training in one place, so reflecting on what you did doesn't mean scrolling through a bunch of workouts or flipping through pages. It's all there for you to quickly view and catch trends in your training. The muscle diagrams give you a visual of what you're actually training, which helps a lot with making sure you're balanced and not neglecting certain areas without realizing it. There's also more flexibility in how you track exercises. You're not locked into just sets and reps. You can track timed and text-based exercises, use supersets, and structure your workouts in a way that actually matches how you train. And then there's the idea of automatic adjustments, where instead of constantly guessing what to change, your training can adapt in a more structured way, helping you progressively overload without overthinking every detail. The goal with all of this isn't to make tracking more complicated. It's actually the opposite. It's to make the act of tracking simpler while making the outcome of tracking more useful. And a lot of these features are available for free, which is something I felt strongly about because tracking your workouts shouldn't feel limited if you're just trying to train better. At a certain point, this becomes less about which method is best and more about how you approach your training. There's a difference between just working out and actually training with intention. When you start tracking in a way that's clear and consistent, you naturally start thinking differently. You walk into the gym knowing what you did last time, what you're trying to improve, and how your workouts are connecting over time. That shift changes everything. Progress stops feeling random and it starts feeling like something you're building deliberately. And if your tracking method supports that, if it's simple enough to stay consistent with and clear enough to actually guide you, then it becomes a tool that genuinely improves how you train. So whether you're using notes, a journal, a spreadsheet, or an app, the important thing is that you're tracking in a way that actually helps you stay intentional. Some methods are simpler, some are more detailed, and some make it easier to reflect and adjust. But they all come down to the same goal: turning your efforts into consistent progress. If you want something that keeps your workout tracking simple while giving you a clearer picture of your training, you can check out Grin and Gain on the App Store or on grinandgain.com for Android early access. And if this helps you think about your training a little differently, I'd appreciate if you like this video and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.